Welcome to week 12 of Honzuki no Gokokujo, Ascendance of a Bookworm. I know I missed week 11. It's actually been 2 weeks since you've seen me last, probably. And I'm sorry for that, but last week was actually a really good episode. It was an episode where Mine basically had to confront the fact that she won't be around for much longer, and her family has to come to grips with that they're going to lose this child. Almost after they've gotten her back from the brink, they're going to lose her again. And that's obviously a difficult thing to accept, so for them it's more like they're losing her for the first time all over again. And for her parents, I'm assuming it must be a really big ordeal. This all started, episode 11, started with Mine coming back from her fever where she was almost dead. She passed out at the office of the merchant that she's an apprentice to, and they had to use this magical ornament to bring her back, but it's a consumable, and it got degraded and just wilted away after it revived her from her fever. And she asked about whether these other objects do exist, magical objects that could save her from this devouring fever, and they tell her no. It's basically something that the nobles keep only to themselves, and we find out that the merchant's granddaughter is actually set to become a noble person's, the subtitles say concubine. I think mistress is a more appropriate word, because that's kind of like a living arrangement where she's kind of just sent off to a family. And in return, they promise to keep her alive. Now, that's not really a balance of power that we like, and I feel like somewhere in this anime we're going to get the revolution that was promised, because Mine is not the type of person to stand for that kind of stuff. So without further ado, 1 minute 42 seconds, let's get started with episode 12. Oh, I forgot. She also only has 1 year left, and she's basically come to terms with it by just accepting that she's gonna die. Do I think she's gonna die? No, obviously not. This show wouldn't really exist if she dies. She's more resourceful than that. Even in just the last episode, she basically invented baking. She's kind of like a super Mozart, if you want to put it like that. Okay, let's keep going. I mean, first of all, that's a little bit insensitive, Lutz. Be like, yeah, with or without Mine, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. This parental struggle also reminds me of one of the other anime of the season, which is Hoshiai no Sora, where this kind of thing is just an every episode occurrence. People just fight with their parents all the time. And it's good to see that Lutz at age 7 is also picking up on that most ancient of traditions, namely fighting with your parents. It's just a really great way of showing that, this is a real world, and then another complete parallel. It's like last episode there was a long discussion about Benno's granddaughter, or whatever, not Benno, the old merchant guy's granddaughter, so many names. She's gonna become she's basically betrothed to a noble person, and I feel like that's the kind of discussion or societal analysis that you would miss if the author wasn't a woman, because in the most apt comparison for the series is Spice and Wolf. And Spice and Wolf, while it does have romantic elements, it's more kind of baity romantic elements, just to kind of get you to keep reading it, kind of like a will they or won't they kind of thing. Whereas this show actually analyzes the social texture of the world that it's inhabiting. It really takes a look at all the different implications that certain things have. Like, for example, if you have a young daughter who has a devouring and you want to keep her alive, and only the noble people do have the magic to keep her alive, what's your only option? It's basically just to give her to them. I feel like that's a historically accurate way of looking at things. Traditionally, over the course of centuries, we have seen marriages between families to consolidate power. This is another way of doing that, I think. And it also reminds you that no matter how rich you are, you're still just a commoner, which the noble people, of course, like a lot. Very similar sentiments to Lawrence in Spice and Wolf. Lawrence in Spice and Wolf basically has the same conundrum, which is if you're a second son or a third son or whatever, you're not going to get anything inheritance-wise, so you kind of just have to strike out on your own, even though he says the ultimate goal of every traveling merchant is just to become a citizen, a thing that they've addressed in this show, which leads me to believe that either they're drawing from similar historical sources. I don't know the accuracy of those historical sources. Maybe it's a well-known historical source in Japan or something, or this was influenced by that. Not necessarily a bad thing, because like I've been saying about this show, it analyzes a completely different part of society than I think Spice and Wolf does. But it's interesting to see the parallels that exist between the two of them. This is great. This is so great. This is like when those like RPGs go way too far and they just make up random stuff to do. It's like if you start a sugar-free sweets company, the sugar lobby comes in and tells people that the sugar-free substance that you're using causes cancer or whatever. This is just that applied to like a Middle Ages type setting. It's cool to see. This is the time skip that I've been asking for like the past 3 or 4 episodes. I'm like, we need a time skip so that things can progress and we can move up from small gold coins to large gold coins or whatever. Someone posted a like conversion of the gold coins into our currency, like US dollars, even from yen. So it was pretty cool. Like it actually gave me a sense of how much money she's actually making. A pretty crazy amount of money. Even especially compared to her parents. She made like way more than her parents, even her very first day of being a merchant or whatever. But now we got that time skip. We got a lot of information in a very small amount of time. And her business is progressing. But of course, we have to remember that time is ticking down on mine itself. So if something doesn't happen pretty soon, in the next couple of episodes, we're going to see something that we probably didn't want to see from the beginning of this, which is like mine dealing with her passing, or some like mysterious savior force coming to save the day. Remember the very first scene of the very first episode, which everyone said was a spoiler, which I kind of now agree with because it shows like some magical person treating mine when she's lying on this bed. And of course we know that magic is the only thing that can cure the devouring now, so that puts everything in new perspective. So I kind of wish they hadn't showed that scene. Like other people have said, it's kind of a spoiler now. But, you know, because they did show it, we know that mine's not going to die, which I guess is good for a children's show because it is, I think, geared at younger viewers who can appreciate, like, the inventing style and everything without necessarily... They may not be able to appreciate the more, like, nuanced social side of it, which we can pick up on. But I do think it's good that they did show that, so it's not some kind of, like, tragedy at the end of the day. Okay, continuing. The Walter White sentiment, exactly. He's like, I got cancer, I'm just gonna make as much money as possible, and then when I die, it'll all be over, and I won't get caught, and it'll all be fine. And then mine's doing the same thing at age 7. Ooh, that's crazy. That cuts real deep there. Now that they show us this like giant nobleman's quarter and stuff, shouldn't the noble people have heard of her by now? Like, there's this crazy peasant lady who's like changing the way all these things are being done. She invented paper. She like made this hair ornament thing. She invented soap and shampoo and whatnot. Not soap, shampoo. Like I feel like her story should be giant by now. She should have like a Jack Sparrow-esque like legend that just precedes her wherever she goes, which doesn't seem to be the case and kind of makes me curious as to whether people gossip in this place. I feel like they have to have, so maybe the nobles already know about her. We don't know. Let's see. I love a good creation myth. Just lay it on me, bro. Give me all the creation myths. I'm a creation myth hoarder. Give it all to me. It's pretty funny that the god of life is the villain in this creation myth, because usually it's like the god of death, or like if you're like a Hindu mythology type thing, the god of life and the god of death are like two parts of one whole. But in this, it's exclusively the god of life, who's like a bad guy who kidnaps people. Pretty interesting spin on things. I don't know if it's based on anything. Tell me, I guess, if it's based on something. Maybe like Celtic mythology or something. Not too familiar with that, so it'll be interesting to find out if it is based on anything. She's clowning people in a different world for having a particular prayer pose. This is like one of those things you can only get away with in like an isekai type situation. Maybe it's good for your single leg balance or something. I don't know. Traditional religion. All the knowledge was bound up in the service of God, so you couldn't really get anything else. All the astronomers were priests, all the scientists were priests, all the doctors were priests. Only recently have we uncoupled religion and knowledge successfully. Maybe like since the invention of the printing press. Maybe like 100 years before that. Maybe less. Probably less. Oof. Whew. Okay. That was episode 12 of Ascendance of a Bookworm. Interesting episode. Things are going at a nice pace here. I don't know how many episodes this season is set for. I think it's 14. We're coming to that like logical conclusion of things. We're going to get back to that first scene that we talked about earlier, where she's with the priest and he's like doing something to make her better. I guess there is one way to get magic other than just chaining yourself to a noble, which is going to the source of the magic, which is God. So it's like, which is the lesser of two evils? Pick whichever one doesn't offend you. Go with that one. So in this case, she's mistakenly stumbled upon the God season or God strategy, and we've come to the point where she's gonna, I think, learn about magic and find a way to fix herself. Hopefully that's the way to go. Who needs magic items when you can just enchant them yourself, I guess. Classic mine, just coming into something and then making the best of it. This show's, as I've been saying for a long time, solid show. We're 12 episodes in, that's like 80% of the way through, and it's still pretty solid week to week. It delivers all that it needs to, gives you like a good wholesome feel, introduces you to different parts of the world, has pretty excellent world building, as well as just keeping it solid with the music and the art and everything. There was a particular scene in the church where they were using that kind of like Bulgarian choir inspired music like they did in the opening of Ghost in a Shell. There's a video by a particular music YouTuber about that. You think it's like some traditional Japanese stuff, but actually it's like inspired by a Bulgarian choir or something, which is kind of cool. And just the whole like cathedral architecture and everything was pretty stayed pretty true to its like classical roots, which I thought was nice to see. Solid episode all in all. What more can you expect from the show? It's like it all gives you everything that you need from it. I will be covering Hoshiai no Sora and Beastars continuingly. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but I am keeping pace with it, so I will be, giving my thoughts on it in some manner or another. Expect another talking vlog sometime coming in the future about one of those, I guess. Okay, but that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.